Today on Dr. Phil. They have an open marriage.
You say he suggested it.
He absolutely suggested it.
You say she suggested it.
It was her idea.
He forced me to get into a chat room.
There's the truth, and then there's a lie.
Now she has a boyfriend.
Why did you say, oh, well, okay, this seems like a great deal to get involved in?
I'm a man.
So you said, hell, she's married, no pressure. I think an open marriage is totally asinine. Today's going to be a changing day in your life. You've never had anybody working harder to bring you to the threshold of change than right now. Okay, I need your opinion. What do you all think of these earrings? Pretty spiffy, right? Would you still want them if I told you that your boyfriend had to get your husband's permission first before giving them to you? Okay, who wants this diamond ring as a gift? Would you still accept this ring if this was from your husband as an apology for, well, arguing with you? Big time. These scenarios really happened to one of my guests today. Betty, who says her husband also gave her this. And later, she says he gave her this. These two men, the husband and the boyfriend, are fighting over one woman who says she's had enough of the abuse and the drama. Her husband says he does not want to let the marriage go, but she has one foot out the door, and you can imagine why. Take a look.
After 29 years of marriage, I have left my husband and the father of my 9 children. I finally got the guts to say, I've had enough, and I want somebody that can treat me like a queen. About 9 years into my marriage, Philip started physically abusing me.
I admit it, I have some anger issues. Betty, she knows how to push my buttons. She tries to make me hit her.
He's blacked both of my eyes. I've had bruises on both arms, both shoulders. I've had bruises on my legs.
One time I hit her so hard it knocked her out, gave her a black eye, and she was laying there on the side of the road.
Things have gotten physical at least 75 times.
Well, you would think things would just end there. But Philip and Betty then decided to work on their marriage in a different way.
A few years ago, Betty and I were kind of in a slump in the marriage.
Philip suggested that we have an open marriage. I was absolutely terrified. I had no desire whatsoever.
Having an open marriage was Betty's idea. Having an open marriage was not my cup of tea. I felt like if she was going to see other people, then I should be allowed to see other people too. The rules were that we were allowed to be sexual with other partners, but any kind of a relationship was totally off limits.
Over the last 5 years, I have probably been with 15 different men, and Philip has probably been with 10 different women. About 1.5 years ago, I met Kevin on social media. Kevin and I hit it off right away. First time I ever laid eyes on him, I instantly knew that he was hot and sexy and a gentleman. Soon after I met Kevin, I definitely started having real feelings for Kevin.
Initially, Kevin and I respected each other. We exchanged messages on social media. I didn't have a problem with Betty spending time with Kevin in the beginning because it was supposed to be just sexual, but turned out they were spending time together in dates and meeting his family. When I realized that Kevin and Betty were in a relationship, I was angry. A few months ago, I asked my wife out on a date. I was trying to rekindle things.
We got into a huge argument. It got very physical, and Philip broke my wrist. 3 months ago, I packed my bag, I moved out, filed for divorce, and we have our final hearing in just a few months.
Betty needs to give me a chance. I'll let Betty. She's my whole universe. Can't imagine life without her.
Okay, now, you two have been married how long?
Almost 29 years.
29 years. And you have how many children?
9 children.
9 children. 29 years, 9 children. And there's some debate over who suggested open marriage and when it was suggested. You say he suggested it.
He absolutely suggested it.
But you say she suggested it.
It was her idea. She already had the meeting set up with the guy.
And how did that meeting get set up with the guy?
You were talking to him on social media.
Because you made me get into a chat room. He forced me to get into a chat room.
The chat room was 15 years prior.
All right, let me stop here because things can change today. I can help you guys, but you know it requires you to be honest.
Yes, sir.
And Robin always says there aren't versions of the truth. There's the truth, and then there's a lie. Who's telling the truth?
I'm telling the truth.
I'm telling the truth.
Well, really, what's the point? What's the point in going forward here?
I can back up pretty much everything I've said.
Well, let's set that aside for a minute. Are you beating on this woman?
I have hit her, yes, sir.
You've hit her. She says you've hit her, she guesses, 75 times.
That's not true.
That is the absolute truth.
That is not true.
I can guarantee you it is at least 75 times.
What
maybe
would
even
your
more.
version be?
At most, probably 7 or 8 times over all the years.
You are
7 or 8
crazy.
times. According to Betty, you have given her a black eye in 2016. You bruised her shoulder in 2016. We have pictures. You bruised her neck and cut her face in 2017. Picture of all those. You broke her wrist, May 18, 2019. This is the hospital report of Betty, and it says fractured wrist, navicular suspected, which is the little bone. It's the one that usually breaks. It's very tender over the navicular bone. That was broken, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's 4 of the 7 or 8 that you've mentioned.
Yes.
Right there.
Yes.
And your attitude about it, you said, I didn't walk away, Philip. I just couldn't handle any more right now. Do you have any clue how badly my wrist hurts? I keep praying that it will just go away, but it hurts like crazy. The man that loves me broke my wrist. And then there was a little emoji face there, sad. You said, yes, Betty, I get that I broke your wrist. You have beat that dead horse. I cannot unbreak it no more than you can undo the things done to me. You don't sound very remorseful there. It's like, come on, yeah, I broke your wrist, get over it.
That's a lot of text messages, a lot of apologies later.
Oh, I've got the string.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I am very remorseful.
So were you hit again after the wrist?
Not after the wrist. That's when I walked away.
He responded to that poorly because you sent this text. You want to play hardball? When I was trying to be kind, we can play hardball. You said, you're trying to be kind is how I ended up with a broken hand. And you said, you won't like hardball. Trust me, you will wish you had talked to me when I was trying. Enjoy your screwed up life. 2 can play your game. What do you mean when you say, okay, we're going to play hardball and you ain't going to like it?
I'll stop paying your bills. I'll stop paying your stuff.
Would it be fair to say that the intent of that was management by intimidation? You were trying to back her off of her position?
That was not my thoughts.
That's how it come across.
It may have been, and if it come across that way, I'm sorry. I was trying my best to talk to her and get her to talk to me, and let's work things out.
Well, I've got some hard questions for Betty as well, but her boyfriend Kevin is here. He's been listening backstage. We're going to find out why he says he is the kinder partner when compared to her husband. And I'm going to discuss this open marriage concept, whoever brought it up. We'll be right back.
At first, Philip didn't have any difficulties with my being with Betty. Once Philip found out that Betty and I were actually in a loving relationship, he physically attacked me. He began striking me about the head, hitting me a few times. That evening, there was a handgun in the house.
I told him if he racked the gun, that he better use it, shoot to kill, because if he didn't, I was going to kill him with it.
And later, I think an open marriage is totally asinine. I'm curious why you were attracted to the situation.
When it comes to my wife and Betty's boyfriend, Kevin, I feel like he's just a homewrecker.
Philip blames Kevin for me wanting the divorce. One time, Kevin was visiting me, and Philip saw Kevin's car.
She told me that he was not there. I was so mad that I took out a knife and I cut 2 of his tires.
Kevin and Philip absolutely do not get along.
What Kevin needs to know is he's destroyed a family. I feel like Kevin needs to leave. He needs to back off and be a man.
I'm not sure what'll happen when Kevin and Philip have to sit across from each other at Dr. Phil. I'm terrified.
Well, I can tell you what's going to happen when Kevin and Philip sit across from each other. We're going to have an adult conversation, and we're going to talk about these things like adults, because we're not going to go there. So you can forget about that. That's not going to happen. Not on my watch, not on this stage, right?
Correct.
Philip and Betty say they began to see other people while married as a way to spice up their sex life. But then their plan backfired when Betty developed deeper feelings for her current boyfriend, Kevin.
About 1.5 years ago, I met Betty for the first time. When I saw Betty, I thought there were instant sparks.
Kevin is amazing.
When Betty and I first met, she was very crystal clear that she was married to Philip still and that they did have an open relationship. Never been this happy with a woman, never been more in love. I refer to Betty all the time as kitten, or my sweet kitten. At first, Philip didn't have any difficulties with my being with Betty. I even bought Betty a beautiful pair of earrings. I asked Philip if I could do this with his permission. Philip was perfectly fine with it. Once Philip found out that Betty and I were actually in a loving relationship, I became very aware of Philip's abusive ways. He physically attacked me. What Philip did was he pushed his way past Betty and began striking me about the head, hitting me a few times.
I was furious. I was beyond angry.
That evening there was a handgun in the house, so I simply showed it to him. I never pointed the gun at Philip.
Betty told him 3 times to shoot me.
No.
I told him if he racked the gun, that he better use it, shoot to kill, because if he didn't, I was going to kill him with it.
Once the divorce is finalized, we will set a wedding date. I'm not going anywhere, and she's not going to let me, is what she tells me.
Okay, you've been listening backstage, right?
Yes, sir.
And Betty was saying she's terrified about what's going to happen when you guys are across from each other. And I said, what's going to happen is nothing. We're going to have an adult conversation, right?
Yes, sir.
We're agreed on
Indeed.
that?
Absolutely.
You're agreed on
Agreed.
that? That's not what we do. We're just going to have a conversation here. And thank you for coming.
It's my pleasure.
And being here. And thank you for coming as well. I mean, none of y'all had to be here, and you're willing to do this, and I hope we can make some strides here. Kevin, what made you believe that Betty's husband was okay with you dating his wife?
Betty conveyed to me that it would be okay for us to see each other, that she was in fact married, and that he was open to her having another man in her life.
And
It was her idea to start the open
No, it
marriage,
was not.
and it was her going with other guys before
No,
I
it was not.
ever, and that's the truth, and you know it is.
No.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Just like you saying that I told Kevin to shoot you 3 different times.
You did.
I had you pushed out the door, and I was screaming at you, Philip, for the sake of our children, leave, for the
not
sake
true.
of our children.
That's not true.
did she tell you to shoot him?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Were you thinking about shooting him?
I didn't want to. If it had come to it, to defend myself, to defend my life, to defend Betty, absolutely.
There's no place for a gun here.
I agree.
And there's no place for you pummeling him or her. You have a right to defend your home, but let's take the guns out of this equation here, because you don't know what's going to happen if you do shoot him. You
And I
have
did
no
not
idea
want
how that's
to.
going
I
to play.
certainly know. I understand the ramifications.
Yeah, you could spend a lot of time trying to explain that, and when you, I've spent a lot of my professional career as a trial scientist and being in front of juries, and I could make it real hard for you.
Indeed.
You don't want to do that. You want to get that out of there and not have that be part of this. Now, you said for the sake of all of us and our children, just leave. You have 9 children? 4 of them are underage, right?
4 of them are underage.
Okay.
The 4 boys.
But you're not raising them.
Nope.
No, sir, not at this point.
She don't even hardly see them. About once a week, maybe she'll see them an hour.
Okay.
Philip, you do not even want to go there because
It's fact.
you live out there on the property
I
in
do.
a shed where they live.
I do.
And they have come and asked you to shoot guns with them, and you are too busy. Got to take a bath.
I've
Got to
spent
do.
plenty of time with them.
Oh, now that you knew that you were coming on the Dr. Phil show, all of a sudden he decides to take them to the movies. First time in.
I've only been out there, Betty, about 2 weeks.
Okay, hold
We've had
on.
the boys for many years.
Why do you not have custody of your children?
We do not have cut.
She
Philip,
didn't want the kids.
he's
when
asking
we
me
were
a
together.
question. He's not asking you. He's asking me. So you need to let me answer.
Yeah, why don't you?
We don't have custody of the children right now.
Not we,
Or
you.
me, because of all of the domestic violence. And when he broke my wrist, I wanted to remove my children from that situation before Child Protective Services or whatever come in and said, hey, they are in a very abusive situation. Not that they were abused, but I did not want them looking at the abuse that I've suffered. One of my other daughters asked us for custody.
I don't understand why these children's mother is not with them.
I am not with them right now because I'm living in a 1-bedroom apartment. They stay out with my mother and my other daughter, which he lives on my mother's property in a shed right now. He does not miss a chance to jab at me, to try and...
So it's not convenient for you.
That's not true.
It's not that it's not convenient, it's just impossible right
That's
this
not
minute.
But see, you could
And I
have.
work-
Betty and Philip's children are backstage. We'll hear why
Not
they
all
want their
mine.
parents to get a divorce. Not the 4 young ones. 2 of the grown ones. We'll be right back.
To say the least, my parents' marriage is very toxic. When I think about the whole open marriage concept, I'm disgusted.
I don't feel like my parents are very interested in being parents.
And later,
I'm thrilled to have Betty in my life. I don't dwell on her past.
But she's been back to my house since y'all been together and had sex with me twice.
3 years ago, Philip and I moved out of the home that we had lived in for 25 years.
Betty and I moved about 10 miles away together, just the 2 of us, to an apartment.
My husband and I wanted our freedom.
We were experimenting in our relationship, and we felt like it was not the healthiest thing to have around the smaller children. We still had 4 young children living at home.
Currently, the 3rd daughter had custody of the children.
I feel like that was a smart thing to do because of the arguing and the things that were going on at home between Betty and I.
I'm very close with my children. That it's best for them not to live with me at the moment because they need more stability. And right now, things just are too crazy in my life.
we're back with Betty and her husband, Philip, and her current boyfriend, Kevin. And you heard me right. I'm back with Betty and her husband and her boyfriend. Even though Betty says she's very sure of her relationship with Kevin, for some reason, he has never met her daughters, Victoria or Liz.
To say the least, my parents' marriage is very toxic. The best way to describe it is almost like fire and gasoline. They kind of just ignite each other, and then from there, things blow up in flames.
My parents' relationship is dysfunctional and quite confusing. One day they're filing for divorce, and the next day they're having date night.
I do know about my dad's abuse personally. My dad has been physical with me in the past. One time when I was 17, he actually pulled me out of the church by my hair. I had my hair in a ponytail. He took my hair around his left hand and then took his right hand and hit me about 3 times at my left ear, to the point of almost being unconscious. To this day, I actually do have vertigo and permanent damage to my eardrum. When it comes to my mom, she definitely does manipulate the truth.
My mom can be very needy and self-centered.
And she does do a lot of denying and lying when she's confronted about things. When I think about the whole open marriage concept, I'm disgusted by it.
The most difficult part about this is that it does affect our entire family. I don't feel like my parents are very interested in being parents.
My sister and I are definitely more of the adults. They act like they are teenagers.
My mom and dad have lost control of their lives.
Now, you two have never met Kevin before, right?
No, sir.
And did you have any desire to meet Kevin?
Not at all.
Tell me what your feelings are about that.
My feelings, for one thing, is A, that it doesn't matter to me what kind of person you are. This is already a complicated enough situation that bringing somebody else in this is not healthy.
My mom doesn't know how to be her own person. She doesn't know who she is. And I feel like just going from relationship to relationship is not going to help her at all. She needs actual help, and she's not going to find that through a man.
Maybe, maybe not.
Let me ask you. I'm just curious about this, and maybe you can shed some light on it, because I think an open marriage is totally asinine. I just think it doesn't work. It's not really a marriage. I think it's just what 2 hedonistic people say when they want to go do what they want to go do and not be married, not be accountable, not deal with reality. I think it's just doesn't work, never works. I've never seen it work. I've been doing this for 45 years. I've never seen it work one time. Not one time in 45 years have I ever seen it work. I'm curious why you were attracted to the situation. You find out early on that she's married, but in an open marriage. Mm-hmm. Why at that point did you say, oh, well, okay, this seems like a great deal to get involved in?
The idea of being able to consensually meet with a beautiful woman and enjoy each other with, at the time, no commitment was appealing to me. I'm a man.
Okay, so you said, hell, she's married, no pressure.
Well,
No commitment.
I was told that it was okay.
Did you never think about the fact that there are kids involved?
I did not take that into consideration.
So are you in love with her now?
Absolutely.
So you want to marry her now?
Tomorrow.
Okay. Divorced Betty with 9 kids, you want to marry her?
That's what she's conveyed to me as her desire, and I agree with it completely.
Can I ask this, though? I mean, if you do love my mother so much, can you not see that this would not be a healthy situation, even if it was just her involved? Even if it was just no kids involved, if it was just her? If you loved her, you should be able to see that it's not healthy to go from 29 years of marriage right into another one with no cool down, no thought. If you loved her.
He's never held a marriage to start with, so.
I have been married. I have,
Yeah, for how long?
You know what?
7 years.
Yeah.
7
7
this
years.
is what he always does, is he always deflects, and he never misses
just
an
stated the fact.
opportunity
He's
to
never
jab.
been able to hold
but
a
he
marriage.
also has never
Y'all
beat a
both
woman
deflect.
either.
Y'all both deflect.
So he's got that.
I view Betty's decision to embrace me on a number of levels as an escape from a very volatile situation. And no, very honestly, the effects, the ramifications of the other children did not cross my mind. I'm not going to sit here and lie about that. I would say that it's a matter of my being consumed with unbelievable, genuine affection. Put the whole physical aspect out of the picture. Someone who speaks very highly of me, someone who appreciates me, someone who overly affectionate. That Betty and I, in the time that we've been together, have never had one cross word. We've never had an argument. She's always had a smile on her face. She has never done anything to cause
As
me...
a person who's been married 11 years, that's not a real relationship.
Not at all.
Maybe it's the beginning of a real relationship.
No, it's not.
But
Well,
that
Betty and
fades
Philip's
away.
divorce, the hearing is coming up, and it's rolling down the tracks real quick. It's coming up in a matter of weeks. So what are they going to do? I mean, how do they continue to behave as parents? You're quite right. This impacts a lot more people than just the two of them. And I've got some questions about the open marriage aspects of this. We'll be right back.
You absolutely did. Do not lie to me about that.
You're the one defending all the lies.
I have listened to you lie. You are not telling the truth. You absolutely did do that.
I would say that my parents are very hypocritical. My siblings and I were all raised as very conservative Christians.
We were told no drinking, no smoking, no drugs.
We were never allowed to cut our hair. You weren't allowed to wear nail polish. You could never be alone with somebody of the opposite gender.
My parents were the ones that insisted that we live by the Bible.
The whole time my parents were living this double life. It's always a do as I say, not as I do.
I feel like the whole thing sends me very mixed messages. It's certainly not the way I was raised.
Now, you're 27 and 22, so you've been around this a long time.
Yes, sir. Yes.
When did you find out that they had what they declared an open marriage?
It was well after the fact. We only found out from finding little clues here and there, and when we would ask, it was always denied.
So why did y'all deny it?
It was embarrassing for me.
It was embarrassing for me, but don't act like Philip. Philip wants to act like it was my idea, and and yes, it was hypocritical. But whenever we first started doing it, I was concerned, and Philip took me through the Bible and showed me an instance where Abraham and Sarah went into a city, and Abraham offered Sarah to the king, and he said, "Look, it was even done in biblical times."
No,
It may not be true, but that's what Daddy did.
No.
You absolutely did. Do not
Betty.
lie to me about that.
You're the one defending all the lies.
I have listened to you lie, and you make up stuff on me this entire time.
You're the
And
one
this
lying.
is one time I finally have a say, and I'm going to stand up and say, you are lying. You are not telling the truth. You absolutely did do that.
Did you get the Bible and show?
I did not.
You are a liar.
I did not.
You are a liar.
Both of you have functioned under the understanding of an open marriage.
Whether it was his fault or my fault, the fact is I am a grown adult,
Dr.
and
Phil.
I went with it.
And the
Whether
fact
it
is
did-
you went and cheated on me twice long before any open marriage stuff was ever done.
This is how it goes when we try to help them.
Yeah, okay. You've been with how many?
Probably 15.
Okay,
It's more than that.
and so
More than that.
so
it is
you're
well more than that.
what?
It's
It is
more
well
than that.
more than 15.
Okay, well,
I don't think count
25,
matters.
30, 40, 50, I don't know, but it doesn't
According
matter.
to him, it's probably 500.
Okay,
I don't think
well,
it matters.
So it doesn't matter, but so you got the lottery ticket out of all the ones.
Apparently, yeah.
Out of all the ones,
Yeah.
she hit upon you. How you feel about that?
Well, the short answer is I'm thrilled to have Betty in my life. I don't dwell on her past.
Yeah, okay. Just
Well, she's been back to my house since y'all been together
She's
and had sex with me twice.
good for you.
Yeah. Don't know who else she's had sex with, but she's had sex with me twice.
y'all have to understand that makes a mockery of
It does.
marriage.
It
Yes,
does.
sir. You know what, Philip? You have sat here and you have acted like you have been a perfect saint. Just like you
I have
saying that
not.
you only hit
have
or
not.
slapped me
All
7 to
he
9
was
times.
agreeing. Like
I
literally
have
all
not.
he did
No,
was
you didn't.
say,
I
have
did
not,
hear him
Betty.
say that, and I don't think that's fully
admit
accurate.
that I've
He's
been
We're
not-
going to take a
wrong.
closer look at some of these abuse allegations, including his own daughter's claims, when we come back, because I want to get down to some things that I think are both predictive and prescriptive when we return.
he did hit me in the side of my head. I was almost unconscious.
What is wrong with you people?
And my mom said I deserved it.
These are criminal acts.
From my point of view, my husband and I will absolutely be divorced in a few months.
I hope that we could possibly repair the relationship and become a whole family again. I'd love nothing more than to spend the rest of my life with her.
After my divorce is final, my plan is to marry Kevin. If I go through with the divorce, I fear that Philip might snap.
Some of the things you've said to us, I took note of. One of the things you said is, I have a temper at times when Betty pushes my buttons. I've gotten angry at times to the point of hitting her. Betty will be right up in my face and she will not stop. It is as if she is trying to make me hit her. I never hit her until 15 years into the marriage. It was after she cheated. The cheating caused the anger. I am not an angry person, and anyone will tell you that. I'm the easiest person to get along with, but sometimes she pushes my buttons.
I have an anger issue.
But everything
she's not
you're
causing my anger issue.
You're attributing it to her. If she just wouldn't push your buttons, if she wouldn't make you angry, if she wouldn't trigger this in you, then you wouldn't hit her.
No, that's all out of context.
Well, put it in context for me then.
I have anger, and I do, but I have tried to get her to let me leave. In fact, the night that, when her wrist was broken, we had gotten in an argument. There was no physical contact. I ended up leaving the house.
No, y'all weren't there. Y'all don't know.
No, let him speak.
Yeah.
I went to a parking lot, and I called her, trying to talk to her on the phone, and she asked me where I was at, and I told her. I said, just talk to me. Let's talk this out. And she would hang up on me, and she would hang up on me. And it got to the point that when I would call her, she would say, have you turned around to come back yet? I said, no. And she'd hang up. I sat there for 3 hours.
Point is, he's trying to say it was my fault. He messaged me 6 o'clock Saturday morning. I didn't answer because I was asleep. He got mad, come in the room, had my hand like this, and he pummeled me upside the head.
That's not
Boom.
true.
That's the short answer.
That is
Okay, what
not
did you
true.
want to say? This is absurd.
I just want to say that even though nothing excuses his actions, at the end of the day, he still chose to go back, even though she's calling. But she does push him to stay when it's not safe for him to stay.
Victoria, you made some
lies.
statements that I thought were interesting. You said, I've taken the brunt of my dad's fist on probably 6 occasions. The first time he hit me, I was talking about a boy while he was driving. He turned around and hit me across my face. He said he didn't mean to, but he lost his temper. The second time was in May 2014. I was having trouble learning a song on the piano. He grabbed me by the hair, took me off the piano seat and outside. He asked me to choose between him and my boyfriend because he was causing me to be rebellious.
Yes.
After 3 to 4 punches to the side of the head, I was nearly unconscious until my sister Priscilla, who's now raising your children, stepped in to help me. I have vertigo because he damaged my inner eardrums so badly.
Yes,
True?
that's true. Yes.
Unfortunately, that's true.
And he did hit me in the side of my head 3 to 4 times. I was almost unconscious.
What is wrong with you people? What?
And my mom said I deserved it.
These are criminal acts.
Yes. I was wrong, and there's a lot that I still got to work on. There's a lot that I still got to.
Yeah. Is this a marriage that should be saved? Is it a marriage that should be over? I'm going to give my very clear opinion right after the break. This family is so dysfunctional as to be criminal. And you're quite right. If those children were not out of this home, this relationship already, I would be reporting this to the Department of Child and Family Services today to have the children removed and the two of you prosecuted criminally. Because what you're doing is violation of several felonies, in my opinion, beyond neglect. And you're not stupid people. You are trying to have your cake and eat it too. You're trying to maintain some semblance of adherence to these vows you made, this contract before God, and still go out and do what you want to do. That's absurd. If you were to get back into this marriage in the state of mind you are, you would wind up in the penitentiary because your anger is not under control. It is seething just below the surface. Anytime somebody challenges you or tells you what you don't want to hear, it's just seething. And you're going to act on it, and when you get violent, you're going to get reported and you're going to wind up going to jail. And if you run off and marry her, you just, if you had a choice to do that or put your head in the car door and slam it, I'd put my head in the car door and slam it.
Okay.
Because she's as angry as he is.
Yes.
She is as angry as he is. She is manipulative as he is. She has as much unfinished emotional business as he does. And you are going to pay for the sins of those who came before you. And trust me, you haven't had a fight yet. Well,
gird my loins.
it's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming, and hell's coming with it. You don't want to get in that situation, in my opinion. You have a lot of work to do, and a lot of the anger you're feeling, you probably have a lot of reasons for. You probably have a lot of good reasons for the resentment. But, you know, the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. And you need to really focus on your relationship with yourself first. The most important role model in any child's life is the same-sex parent. Yeah. And you have daughters in this family, you have sons in this family. You two need to step back and take a look and say, you know what, I need to handle the responsibilities I have first before I take on more. This deal is over. And you need to accept that it's over, and you need to move on. Your own children, out of the mouths of babes, are telling you it's over. Let it go, right?
For our sake, please.
And I will get you some help with this because you need it. I'm going to get you an individual therapist. I'm going to get you a therapist. Both of you need it, so you can then co-parent and be there for these children. I also want to have help for these girls, because you've been punched in the head 3 or 4 times to the point that you're got vertigo problems and hearing problems, and you've been through all this. I don't want to leave these girls without some guidance and some help either, so I'm arranging help for both of these girls as well. I want to thank all of my guests today. Don't forget to check me out on any number of my social media outlets, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and oh, by the way, take a look at what one fan, Casey, wrote to me just the other day. She said, at Dr. Phil, this morning, my little cousin looked at my phone and saw this screensaver of you. Let's not ask questions. And she thought it was Abraham Lincoln. Now, here's a picture of Abe Lincoln.
Much more hair.
I guess we're about the same age, so it's not totally random. That's all I can say. So you never know what you're going to find. That's all for today. We'll see you next time.